We are traveling through the Old Testament and we've seen the pattern emerge. The ancient Hebrew worldview was this: what God allows is described as him actively doing because he's the creator. You'll need to go back to all the others and watch it, or this one isn't going to make much sense. In the last teaching, we saw a supernatural being that was violent and killed people. He was called the Destroyer, and it was attributed back to God even though he killed. Why? Because what God allows is described as him actively doing. But after the time of the Exodus, as we travel through the Old Testament, we'll find a story begin to emerge about the Destroyer, these supernatural violent beings. These supernatural beings were originally called gods. Strap in. I know that sounds radical, but we're going to have a look at the history of the gods who were part of our divine council. They were created good. Some of them turned bad. God created them and he appointed them over nations to rule over them and guide them, but they didn't do their job properly. And some wanted to be worshipped, and then they became the gods of the nations. Strap in as I unpack what I just said. Psalm 82 verse 1. And by the way, all this is directly connected to divine violence in the Old Testament, because what we're going to see now is that these evil beings do things against God's will. Now, the story starts to change. And yet God is held responsible for what they do. Okay? Let's launch off. Psalm 82 verse 1, English Standard Version. God has taken his place in the divine council. In the what? In the divine council, yes. There is a council of divine beings in heaven, and God takes his place in this council as the Most High God. Now you better strap in as we read the rest of the verse. God has taken his place in the divine council. Who is in this divine council? In the midst of the gods. He holds judgment. What? This is a council of judges, and they're called gods. And God has taken his role as the head honcho in this divine council of gods who were supposed to be judges. Now, don't get upset with the word gods. The word gods and God come from the Hebrew word Elohim. Elohim simply means heavenly being. Heavenly being. The Old Testament says that angels sometimes are referred to as gods. God is referred to as God and Elohim. And here the divine council is referred to as gods. Why? Because they are heavenly beings. So here we've got a council of gods, heavenly beings, Elohims. And God is presiding over them as the most high Elohim or God. They are called by another title in verse 6. They're called gods, this divine council. What were they doing? Judging over who? Doing what? We'll see. Verse 6. I said, you are gods, comma, sons of the Most High, all of you. Okay. They're called gods because they are sons of God. Sons of God are gods, just like sons of humans are humans. Sons of God are God, just like sons of humans are humans. That's all this means. They're heavenly beings. As sons of God, that means God made them. All of them, the gods, are sons of the Most High God. God is the Most High God, and they are gods, lesser gods, sons of God, because God is their Father. Simple. They had a specific task. God gave them a specific job to do. They're part of a divine council of judges. Yeah? Judging over who? Ruling over who? These gods, sons of God, were appointed by God to rule over and judge over and care for and watch and guide a particular nation. You go to him. Molech, you go here. Baal, you go here. That's what was going on originally. They were good. Where does it say that? The God appointed these gods to judge as judges over human nations. One God, one nation. Deuteronomy 32:8. when the Most High, the Most High God, Elohim, apportioned the nations, when God apportioned the nations, this nation, this nation, this nation, when he divided mankind into nations, he fixed the boundaries. Everyone had their borders. There was a time, Genesis 11, the Tower of Babel, where God established nations, and he gave them all piece of land, and they all had borders. When he divided humankind, God fixed the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of the gods. What? Yes. Every nation was given according to the number of the gods. The divine council. Same Hebrew word, Elohim. God had a divine council of gods, sons of God, and they were all good. And God gave one God to this nation, this nation, this nation, this nation. And then if you read the verse before and the verse after, it says, but Israel, I've apportioned Israel to me. These are the gods of the nations. And they're originally good and supposed to do their job to judge, to guide, to rule, to care for their nations. There's a connection between heaven and earth. But some fell. Yes. Psalm 82, 1 and 2. Is this stretching your mind? This blew me away. Psalm 82, 1 and 2, English Standard Version. Look, some fell. God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? What? Some of these gods showed favoritism to the wicked, and as a result, were not judging righteously, but unjustly. Some of these gods showed justice and partiality to the wicked and were unjust as a result. But what happened to the other human beings? Psalm 82:3, that they were supposed to watch over. Give justice to the weak and the orphan. Maintain the right of the lowly and the destitute. Boom. Who were they supposed to judge? Humans. The wicked, the weak, the orphan. There you go. They were judging over human beings. But they showed favoritism to the wicked and neglected the destitute, the outcasts. They fell. If you go from Genesis 11, where God apportioned the nations, to Genesis 12, where God called Abraham from the nations some centuries later, Abraham was worshipping one of these gods. What? Yeah, he was worshipping other gods. The God that was originally appointed over the nation he came from, he was worshipping him. Now we know what went wrong. From serving human beings, they wanted to be worshipped by human beings. And that's the sin of Lucifer. In Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28, he wanted to be worshipped. I will be like the Most High God. I will set my throne above the throne of the stars of God, the angels of God. From being servants and watching over human beings, some of these gods wanted to be worshipped by human beings. They became known as Molech, Baal. Yes, they were originally all good, and they wanted to be worshipped. And now there was a turf war between all the gods and the God of Israel. What's this got to do with the wrath of God? Everything, as we'll see in the next teaching. God bless you.